now that we got our engine just running tip top, this thing is ready to start screaming down the road. But we've got to have a little patience because we got a lot of killer upgrades we want to do to the bottom side.
Yeah, look at this kit. It looks kind of intimidating, but believe it or not, this is one finely tuned suspension upgrade that you could do in your own driveway with some jack stands and some hand tools, all right? Now, a lot of these things look familiar. You've probably seen them before in a lot of suspension upgrade kits, right? You got upper and lower control arms. You got the sway bar to help with the body roll. But as you really get into this kit from BMR, you'll see some really unbelievable advantages. Yeah. For example, we have this cross member that bolts on to the back of the front part of the unibody. All right, you have subframe connectors. It's going to help with a lot of that chassis flex that is sort of common in a lot of unibody cars.
Yeah, now this isn't new designs, but it's a really great integration of some of the best suspension components out there to give you exactly what you want to do to control that rear end. But it can be a little bit confusing, so we're going to back up and we're going to start from the very beginning on sort of a little bit of suspension 101 so it makes a little bit of sense to you.
All right.
Now, if I use this as my axle, right, I got my center section here. Well, if I just have it sitting there, there's nothing controlling motion, whether it's rolling, you know, pinion angle, side to side. Yeah. So I'm going to start somewhere.
And the deal is you got to control this guy and keep it located on every plane.
Yeah, attached to the car, doing what I want it to do. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to get rid of the leaf springs. And we're going to go to a lower control arm. So I'm going to slide the axle tube over here, clamp it down. I got one on that side. And if I pivot on the front where Willie's hand is, right, now I'm going to swing through an arc. I've got some amount of control, but I can still go side to side. There's nothing holding me there, right? And with the amount of torque that's going through this axle, whether it's from the engine or the tires when you're braking, right, the axle's wanting to rotate forward and backwards. The pinion angles wanting to go all over the place. So we've got to add another element of control, the torque arm.
Right, and the torque arm, especially when you get one this beefy, is going to help control all that axle wrap. So what happens if you get on the rear end, right, it wants to lift up, it wants to do this.
Right, so the nose of your rear end is going up and down.
Right, but since we have it tied to the unibody with this cross member that comes with the BMR kit, we can control a lot of that. Same way with the braking, it wants to dive down, right? Well, it's tied into the frame and therefore eliminates a lot of that axle wrap and yet another function of the leaf spring.
Yeah. So now we've got all the linkage we really need to control the motion up and down, right? And the rotation of the axle, so we're pretty close except for now we got side to side. Now a common component is a panhard bar, but in this case we're going to use something that's been around for quite a long time, a Watts link. Now Watts link is really cool. Let's get it set up so you can actually see it work and then we can explain what it's doing. Awesome. All right, now here's your Watts link. Now obviously you've got a link to that side and a link to this side, and I can't move this from side to side. It's controlling the motion of the axle from left to right. And you've got this really simple linkage here, and it's basically just, you know, allowing a little bit of degree of freedom, a little bit of adjustment or whatever, but it's controlling all of the motion side to side. Now a lot of cars use a panhard bar. Now panhard bar just, it's a link from, you know, one side of the car to one side of the axle, and it's a link that swings, but unfortunately as it swings through an arc, the axle's moving one direction. As it swings down the other way, it's moving back and forth. So your rear end isn't quite as centered as you'd like it to be, and it's moving back and forth with your suspension travel. So this is the perfect way of keeping everything exactly where you want it, right, completely lined up through whatever suspension travel you want. And what's neat about it is it's got a lot of adjustability. You can move the Watts link up and down and effectively change your roll center of the back half of the car, which can do a lot of things for dynamics when you really get into suspension tuning.
It's perfect for the guy that wants to go out one day drag racing and go do an autocross course the next day. Yeah. And the great thing about it here is you got, whether it's the Watts link, trailing arms, torque bar, you got multiple systems controlling one plane individually, whereas a leaf spring car, you got one thing trying to control multiple systems, multiple planes.
And none of them very good.
No.
That's why they always feel sloppy and mushy and not quite planted and not the best traction and all that stuff.
Yeah,
so,
right?
Well, this is a really cool system. It's going to be pretty basic, a lot of bolting on, so why don't we get on it so we can go out there and have some fun.
Hey, welcome back. All right, we're still underneath our car in a pretty impressive suspension upgrade for our '69 Camaro. Come here, let me show you all this stuff. Let me show you what we've done. We've been busy. All right, so first this cross member goes in the back part of the front part of the unibody, okay? Now if you follow along, you got some Delrin bushings here, big polyurethane bushing here, so absorbs a lot of that gear vibration you're gonna get from the rear end. Another Delrin bushing in here, so when that rear end is slapping side to side, this whole torque arm can pivot. Remember, you got multiple things doing one item, whereas you had leaf springs on this car, you had one item trying to do multiple things. Up here we have our trailing arms on, right? So that's gonna keep the rear end controlled on this plane. And you can see Kev's doing the coilovers right now. And remember, this platform is available for all kinds of Gen 1 and Gen 2 Camaros, all the way up until 1981. And also, if you have a Nova, you can get the same kit, 68 through 74 Nova. It's BMR suspension. And if you got smoked by a Nova, I gotta tell you, that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, as you can see, we've got jacks holding up the rear end right now, but now that we've got our coilovers bolted on, we'll have to tighten everything up. But now we're starting to really control this rear end. I just got to do this Watts link. And what's nice is you got little heim joints everywhere, so I'm going to spin this 1 or 2 more times.
And everything on this, ride height, you got coilovers, everything's super adjustable on this entire setup.
All right, so that's starting to look pretty good. We're ready to start basically zipping it down, nut and bolt check, and then keep on moving forward.